This is our Haitian culture project, and we're starting off by showing the food. This is our rice and beans. It's very yummy. It's very good. We got the recipes inside our project that we will be handing in to you. We took time to type it up, so it's going to be in the culture project. The culture we chose to research and learn about was the Haitian culture. We all have did extensive research and found out about different aspects of the Haitian culture, including the history, the identification, the location and geography, the demography, the national identity, food and the economy, marriage, religion, medical care, music, and last but never the least, language. So here we go, and I hope this is very fun and educational for all. Haiti is primarily the culture of West African roots due to the French colonization of Haiti, as in evident in the Haitian language, music, and religion. The culture also encompasses contributions from the native, Taino, and Spanish imperialism. The first topic we're going to talk about is the history of Haiti. In 1789, revolution in France sparked the decimation of the colony, which had a population of 500,000 slaves, 28,000 mulattoes, and free blacks. Many were wealthy landowners, and 36,000 in white planters, artisans, slave drivers, and small landowners. In 1791, 35,000 slaves rose in an insurrection, razed 1,000 plantations, and took the hills. Since gaining independence, Haiti has had moments of glory. An early 18th century kingdom ruled by Henry Christophe prospered and thrived in the north, and from 1822 to 1844, Haiti ruled the entire island. The late 19th century was a period of intense internecine warfare, in which red-tag armies backed by urban politicians and conspiring Western businessmen repeatedly sacked Port-au-Prince, the country capital, by 1915, the year in which the U.S. Marines began a 19-year occupation of the country. Haiti was among the poorest nations in the Western Hemisphere. The second thing that we'll be addressing is the identification of Haiti. Haiti, a name that means mountainous country, comes from the language of the Taino Indians, who inhabited the island before the European colonization. After independence in 1804, the name was adopted by the military generals. A lot of them were former slaves who expelled the French and took possession of the colony, then known as Saint Domingue. In 2000, 95% of the population was of African descent, and the remaining 5% mulatto and white. The wealthy people thought of themselves as French, but most residents identified themselves as Haitian. There is a strong sense of nationalism. The third thing that we're going to be informing you about is the location and geography of Haiti. Haiti covers 10,714 square miles. It is located on the western third of Hispaniola, the second largest island in the Caribbean. The neighboring islands include Cuba, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico. 3/4 of the terrain is mountainous. The highest peak is Morna de Sela. The mountains are calcareous rather than volcanic and give way to wide variety microclimatic and soil conditions. A tectonic fault line runs through the country, causing occasional and sometimes devastating earthquakes. The island is also located within the Caribbean hurricane belt. Next thing is the demography of Haiti. The population has grown steadily from 431,140 at independence in 1804 to the estimated of 6.9 million to 72 million in 2000. Haiti is one of the most densely populated countries in the world. Until the 1970s, over 80% of the population resided in rural areas, and today over 60% continue to live in provincial villages, hamlets, and homesteads scattered across the rural landscapes. The capital of Haiti, as I mentioned above, is Port-au-Prince, which is 5 times larger than the next biggest city, Cape Haitian. The national identity of Haiti is what we are going to discuss next. During the century of relative isolation, the follow independence, that peasantry developed distinct traditions in cuisine, music, dance, dress, ritual, and religion. Some elements of African culture survive, such as specific prayers, a few words, and dozens of spirit entities, but Haitian culture is distinct from African and other New World cultures. And I'm going to let Corey come up and be the next.
Food and the economy is the next aspect of the Haitian culture that needs to be talked about. Nutritional deficits are caused by an inadequate knowledge, but by poverty. Most residents have a sophisticated understanding of dietary needs, and there's a widely known system of indigenous food categories that closely approximate modern, scientifically informed nutritional categorization. Rural Haitians are not subsistence farmers. Peasant women typically sell much of the family harvest in regional open-air marketplaces and use the money to buy household foods. Rice and beans are considered the national dish and are most commonly eaten meal in urban areas. Traditional rural staples are sweet potatoes, manioc, yams, corn, rice, pigeon peas, cowpeas, bread, and coffee. Recently, a wheat-soy blend from the United States has been incorporated into the diet. Haitians generally eat 2 meals a day, a small breakfast of coffee and bread, juice, or an egg, and a large afternoon meal dominated by a carbohydrate source such as manioc, sweet potatoes, or rice. The afternoon meal always consists of beans or a bean sauce, and there is usually a small amount of poultry, pork, fish, goat, or less commonly beef or mutton. It is usually prepared as a sauce with a tomato paste base. Fruits are prized between meal snacks. Non-elite people do not necessarily have a community or family meals, and individuals eat wherever they are comfortable. A snack is usually eaten at night before one goes to sleep. Festive occasions such as baptisms, parties, first communions, and marriages include the mandatory Haitian colas. Cake, a spiced concoction of domestic rum and a thick spiked drink made with condensed milk called creamus. The middle class and elite mark the same festivities with Western sodas, Haitian rum, the national beer, and imported beer. Pumpkin soup is eaten on New Year's Day. The next person that'll be talking is Renisha.
Marriage is next on the list. Marriage is expected among the elite and middle class, but less than 40% of the non-elite population marry. However, with or without legal marriage, a union typically is considered complete and gets the respect of the community when a man has built a house for a woman and after his first child has been born. When marriage does occur, it usually occurs later in a couple's relationship, long after a household has been established and their first children have begun to reach adulthood. Couples usually live on a property belonging to the man's parents, living on or near the wife's families. Property is common in fishing communities and areas where male migration is very high. Next is Maria.
The Haitian religion is up next to bat on the agenda. The official state religion is Catholicism, but over the last 4 decades, Protestant missionary activity has reduced the proportion of people who identify themselves as Catholic from over 90% in 1960 to less than 70% in 2000. Haiti is also famous for its popular religion known as the practitioners as serving the Iwa, but referred to by the literature and the outside world of voodoo. This religious complex is a mixture of African and Catholic beliefs, rituals, and religious specialists, and its practitioners continue to be members of a Catholic parish. And up next is Tamaya.
The next part is the medical care in Haiti is very scarce and for the most part substandard, which is what we will address at this time. Outside the capital, standards are often lower than in Port-au-Prince. Medical care in Port-au-Prince is limited, and the level of community sanitation is extremely low. Life-threatening emergencies often require evacuation by air ambulance at the patient's expense. Doctors and hospitals expect immediate cash payment in advance for health services, which is why a lot of Haitian community will die if they have a life-threatening disease or will go untreated for something that is curable. In the event that we have to take care of a Haitian client, we can alter their diet and the times that they eat to help them feel at home. Haitian people are very close people and they care for one another. You will probably have more than the normal visitors in the emergency situations. So try to cater to that situation, and most Haitians are Catholic, so try to respect all aspects of the Catholic lifestyle. The next person that will be up to read is Michelle.
The origin of the Haitian music is our next topic. Following a successful slave revolt that ended in the early 19th century, Haiti became history's first black republic. It is no surprise then the Haitian culture that subsequently emerged had a distinct and uncensored African foundation. Drumming, dancing, and song were central to the practice of syncretic voodoo religion, which coexist alongside Catholicism all over Haiti. As Haitian music became more secularized, folkloric styles like Twabadou or Troubadour and an intimate song along the lines of American blues and Cuban sung grew popularity. Throughout the 20th century, such as genres as American jazz and African high life began to be incorporated into the Haitian music as bands grew bigger in size and musical patrons are more discerning. The 1930s and 40s saw the Haitian government attempting to marginalize voodoo practices as a part of an anti-superstition campaign, but this only led to Haitians determining to celebrate their roots being more resolute in doing so. It eventually became clear that no matter how modern Haitian culture would become, a clear and present African underpinning would remain. A big band, African-rooted, eventually globally influenced dance music known as compas emerged and achieved massive popularity. By the 1960s, rock and roll entered the picture, and many young Haitians were prompted to copy that style. But by the middle of the decade, the mini jazz sound was born, named for the smaller size and range of fashions like the mini skirt. Mini jazz bands plays a hotter version of compas for a generally younger, less gentrified crowd. Further melding of African tradition with European ones was heard in the robber style, a down-home music featuring bamboo, horns, and rustic percussion played to celebrate the end of the Catholic Lenten season. In most recent years, soul, funk, and rap have made their way into Haiti, but a concurrent emphasis of raciness roots has led to the rise of Africanized fusion bands like Bookman Esperance, named for a slave revolt leader, Bookman Duddy. Bookman, Jean, and Ram, the wrestling movement has also seen it to it such legendary figures as guitarist Jesters Coop Kalu, Henry Compass, pioneer band leader, numerous Jean Baptiste, and mini jazz group Taboo Combo, still one of the Haiti's finest, rightliest retained places of honor in the history of Haitian music. Today, despite being Western Hemisphere's poorest country, a land still struggling to recover from the father and son double dictatorships, Haiti continues to produce indomitable, definitely beautiful music. The last list to talk about is the Haitian language. The Haitian language is known as the Haitian language is Creole, often called simply Creole, is language spoken in Haiti by about 12 million people, which includes all Haitians in Haiti, and via immigration by about 2 to 3 million speakers residing in the Bahamas. Cuba, Canada, and France, Cayman Islands, French Guiana, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Belize, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Ivory Coast, Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, and the United States. Haitian Creole is one of Haiti's two official languages, along with French. It is Creole based largely on the 18th to 21st century French, some African language, as well as Arabic, Spanish, Taino, Aqua, and English. Partly due to the efforts of Felix Morzet Leroy, since 1961, Haitian Creole has been recognized as an official language along with French, which had been the sole literary language of the country since its independence in 1804. Its orthography was standardized in 1979. The official status was maintained under the country's 1987 constitution. The use of Haitian Creole in literature has been small but increasing. Morzet was one of the first and most influential authors to write in the Haitian Creole. Since the 1980s, many educators, writers, and activists have written literature in Haitian Creole. Today, numerous newspapers as well as radio television programs are produced in the Haitian Creole. As required by Joseph C. Bernard Law of 18 September 1970, the Institut pour le National established an official authority for Creole, and a slight modifications were. So this is the end of the report. We have covered a lot of different topics about the Haitian culture. We hope that this has piqued your interest about Haiti. We also hope that you have gotten a lot out of this project. I know we have. We have a music selection, and we also have some salutations. The basic salutations is bonjour, which is good day, good morning, and then stock passe, which is how are you doing, and then you would answer like ma, which is good. And here is the music selection.
Oh, baby. I do.